In the Big Ten championship game, it's a rematch of a regular season game that was not close. Ohio State blew out Wisconsin in Columbus. This game taking place in Indianapolis. You're going to be there, Brady, so I'll let you take this first. Ohio State a 16.5-point favorite.
It all starts with how do you protect Jack Coan from Chase Young? He had 4 sacks in their past matchup, and they tried everything. They put a tight end out there, a running back to help. They slid the offensive line. Cole Van Lanen really struggled. It did not matter. Chase Young had himself quite the day. And look, teams in particular Michigan last week, have found ways of slowing him down. But this offense is the other part you have to contend with, because if you can't keep pace with the Buckeyes, you're going to be very one-dimensional in throwing the football. And Justin Fields, 37 touchdown passes to only 1 interception. That's the best touchdown-interception ratio in the country. And J.K. Dobbins have now put himself in a position where the last 2 weeks, he's averaged over 180 yards on the ground. This is an incredibly tough offense to stop and to keep pace with. I just don't see Jack Coan and Wisconsin doing that. Jonathan Taylor had his lowest production of the season versus the Buckeyes, just over 50 yards rushing in that game. So I think it's going to be more of the same. However, there will be some wrinkles and things that Paul Chryst and Jim Leonard, their defensive coordinator, put in for this Buckeyes defense. But I think they can cover that huge spread of 16.5 and win convincingly.
I'll tell you what, I'm looking at Justin Fields here, and I hope that he's healthy. He mentioned this week at media availability that his knee is a little bit sore, but nothing's going to keep him from playing on Saturday. And he's saying all the right things, but that's going to be difficult against a Wisconsin team that is going to go into this game trying to find ways to get in Justin Fields' face, to apply some pressure. And, you know, they're not trying to knock him out of the game, but they certainly want to make him uncomfortable. And for Justin Fields, if you're dealing with some knee soreness during the week, well, then, you know, what are we going to do as a coaching staff? What are we going to do as an offense to be able to make sure that that doesn't become a season-changing issue? Well, you know what? We might have the best running back in the country right there beside him in J.K. Dobbins. And what we've seen from him, it feels like this Ohio State team it's like it's J.K. Dobbins' season. And he understands, and yes, that's season, right? So I know that he feels like he can take this rock and he can carry this offense and keep moving forward. Ohio State's offensive line, tons of veterans. They've been doing a good job of pushing teams around, but it is that explosiveness. It's when he makes that cut, when he finds that open space and explodes forward. J.K. Dobbins has been a unique running back in the game of college football since his freshman season, and we are once again seeing some of that same just like gasp-like plays that made us go crazy when he was a rookie, and now I think that he is the finisher. You know, we've gone through our Justin Fields swoon. We've gone through our Chase Young swoon. Now it's time for us to celebrate one of the great backs in Ohio State history, J.K. Dobbins, as he finishes off this playoff run.
And Jerry Palm believes that just like LSU, Ohio State does not have to win this game to get in the college football playoff, but obviously need to win it to stay up top. Let's go to the Big Ten championship game. Wisconsin, a 16.5-point underdog against Ohio State, the #1 team in the country, the team that's been the most impressive at blowing everybody out like Wisconsin. They beat them by 31 in Columbus earlier this season.
Yeah, I don't love either of these big lines. Like if I was advising people to do, what side to take, I would probably say stay away from this one or lean to the under with both of these defenses playing well. If you had me take a side, I would take Wisconsin. Just championship level football. You wonder if Wisconsin can come up with a game plan that's a little bit stronger. Jonathan Taylor only had 52 rushing yards in the first time around. Ohio State dominated there. It's hard to picture this thing playing out differently. I'm just putting, you know, a little bit more stock in this is a championship game. Wisconsin has game film they can look at, go make a few adjustments, and maybe keep this one within the 16.5. I still think Ohio State wins the game, maybe by 2 touchdowns. So I would take the Wisconsin in the 16.5.
Buckeyes play Wisconsin in the Big Ten championship game. Buckeyes are 16-point favorites, totals 56 and a hook. And this is a rematch from earlier in the season when the Buckeyes beat the Badgers 38-7. Chip, is Ohio State a lock to make the playoff even if it loses to Wisconsin on Saturday night?
I think so. I think that Ohio State has done enough so far that even a loss to Wisconsin, which, by the way, is going to be a very highly and well-regarded team by the College Football Playoff Selection Committee, I don't think that's going to bounce the Buckeyes out. But I also don't think that's going to be a problem because we're gaming out a hypothetical that has Ohio State losing. And Ohio State is not only going to win this game, Ohio State is going to cover. Ohio State's going to win this game by about 20 points. And it's because the Buckeyes are just that much better than Wisconsin. I give the Badgers credit for the way that it's turned around after the loss to Illinois and after kind of losing its way a little bit. But they have found themselves against Chase Young and Ohio State defense that is absolutely ready for Jonathan Taylor. And so therefore it's going to be Jack Coan against this Ohio State defense. I don't know how many points Wisconsin's going to be able to score in this game. And I think that J.K. Dobbins, the way that he has taken over here late in the season, I think this will be a third straight game where Dobbins is out here threatening for like 180, 200 rushing yards, even against a quality Wisconsin defense. Ohio State doesn't want to put Justin Fields in any kind of danger as he's dealing with some knee soreness. Well, guess what? J.K. Dobbins is more than ready to take an increased workload. I think Ohio State, it might be close for about a half, but in the second half, we're just going to see them run away. They win this thing by 20.
Yeah, there's a theme to my picks this week, Akeem, and I'm right there with Chip. It's the favorites. It's the juggernauts. It's the top 3 teams in the country and everybody else. And this is another example here. Hey, sure, Wisconsin a good football team. Sure, Wisconsin can give a lot of teams trouble. Ohio State's just too good. They've got too many different ways they can beat you on offense. You've got to be really explosive and really balanced offensively in your own place in order to threaten and really make this defense uncomfortable. I don't see it happening. We saw what Ohio State did to Wisconsin during the regular season. Now you're going to have a more sterile environment, a kind of a bowl setting, clean turf, an opportunity for Ohio State to really get loose, and I think that Ohio State does. I just think even on an off night, as good as Wisconsin is, even on an Ohio State off night, this is just too good of a team. They don't have off nights. I think Ohio State covers and wins.
The only thing I want to follow up here is because we had a conversation in the newsroom. Like, okay, Ohio State is in no matter what, right? So they got to win by more than 2 touchdowns. Is there a situation where, they might get a little loose and it ends up becoming a situation where, we don't care if we win by 10 or 13 and we have a situation where you're not as confident as laying the 16 with Ohio State? Chip, what do you make of that?
This team is in a killer mentality. I mean, we've seen it all season. They are relentless, and the 2s are great, and the 3s are great. Even if they get up, I think that you put in the backups, and even Ohio State's backups right now are scoring touchdowns on Wisconsin. There's no bigger picture concerns. There's no worried about motivation, whether or not you're a lock for the playoff. This is a laser-focused team. And I think about the words of Chase Young that we actually heard on the broadcast during the Wisconsin game when he was so dominant individually. He said, we haven't been to the college football playoff. Like, this is a program that has a college football playoff national championship win. But that was Zeke Elliott. That was Joey Bosa. That wasn't something that any of these current players got a chance to experience. And I think that hunger and that drive kind of has them playing with a focus that's not going to allow any let up. And even if you're going to take Justin Fields out, even if you're going to take some of those starters out, the backups carry that same mentality. Ohio State runs it up one way or another.
Speaking of a rematch,
listen, hey,
go ahead.
The same thing holds that I talked about with LSU too. I mean, there's all kinds of motivation for Ohio State to run this up. Maybe not run it up, but certainly they don't want to win close because they need this resume, this game, to stack up with what LSU shows because that 1 seed is critical. Ohio State doesn't want to play Clemson either in the 2-3 games. So I think Ohio State is going to be very motivated to keep that number 1 spot in the playoff rankings.
Yeah, if Ohio State wants to see Clemson to be in the national championship where they'll look to exact revenge from 3 years ago when they got shut out, shellacked in a game Urban Meyer coached. So perhaps Ryan Day would get revenge on the Clemson Tigers. We shall see.